Hello and welcome to one more chapter with me, Kay and Alleena. So today is a Wednesday, and guess what that means? It's Top 5 Wednesday. And this is the first video that I'm going to be participating in it because I just found out about it not too long ago from Novels and Nonsense. The idea started on Goodreads with GingerReadsLainey, and I'll link in the description below to all of their channels and to the group so that you can participate too and see what the topics are going to be for July. So this week's topic is Top 5 Characters You Would Like to Drown. So I've got a few choice words for some of these characters. I'm just gonna dive right in, pun intended. So the first one I want to talk about is David Redlantern from Dark Eden by Beckett. And this character I want to drown because he's like the stereotypical like freaking antagonist, like not even just a villain, not even just the worst person. He's just like cranky and miserable, and he thinks all these terrible things are happening to him because he's ugly, not because he's terrible and mean. It doesn't go through his head, and it's terrible. And throughout the entire novel, I'm not going to spoil anything about it, but he's just constantly on John Redlantern's case about things, and all this anger and hatred that he holds in him carries on into the sequel, which is Mother of Eden, which I talked about in my book haul. He's just like, every little thing he does is 10 kinds of terrible, 10 kinds of like stupid besides all that. Like, I really hated him. Whenever I had to read anything in his point of view or read anything about him, I was just like, really, he's the first character on my list that I would drown. Because no. Just no. Like, if you get a chance to read this book, you will understand. I hope you read the sequel too, because it just completely goes through both stories, and it's just infuriating. It just makes me so angry, even though in the sequel, like, he doesn't even exist. But all the effects of his anger and sexism and it's just... Alright, I'm not going to complain about him anymore, but that's the first character. And the second character is Grima Wormtongue from The Two Towers, which is the second part of Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. And the reason I really want to drown him is because he's just like this, like, he's got no spine whatsoever. He's like working for the evil guy because he's afraid to die, even though the hobbits eventually tell him, well, you don't have to listen to Saruman, like, you can be your own human being, you know this, right? And this guy is just like, oh, and he does all these terrible things, and he's gross, and in the movie he was portrayed perfectly, thank you, because throughout the book he's just like slimy and awful and terrible and annoying. That's exactly the reason he needs to be drowned, is because he's annoying. No spine, doesn't stand up for himself, although he remembers that he can just in time to get killed. Like, good job, Grima Wormtongue. Like, good frickin' job. Alright, so the next character I want to talk about is probably one that is going to be slightly ironic. It's Mr. Arrow from Treasure Island, and this is, you know, Robert Louis Stevenson book. It's a classic, and people might not exactly know Mr. Arrow totally, but in the book version, he's just this, like, he has this potential to be this really good captain. He's not a pirate per se, because we know in the story of Treasure Island, without spoiling anything, pirates take over, obviously. We have this huge problem where they're looking for this huge store of treasure left by, like, Captain Flint and all these things, and Mr. Arrow is supposed to be on the side of the good people, except for, guess what? He's always drunk. The pirates keep giving him rum, tons of alcohol, he's always drunk, he can't keep any control over his crew whatsoever. He's another spineless character. I think those tend to bother me the most. He's another spineless character. And so, I mean, Mr. Arrow, if I could drown him, I would, but you know what? Spoiler alert, he takes care of it himself. Or maybe the pirates do. He goes overboard because he's always drunk. So he actually does drown. Irony, he does drown. But anyways, the next character I want to talk about is Raclin, and he's in The Thinking Woman's Guide to Real Magic. No, okay. I would even call him, like, a real character. He didn't really get much of a thing except for he was like a plot device. He was a plot device. That's another thing that bothers me. Like, he didn't even have a soul of his own. He was just evil and terrible because he was a plot device. He set this protagonist on this path to like be this better magician to fight and all these things because he was so rude and sexist and kind of rapey and kind of gross and cast spells of like enchantment over her, and so he was a plot device to get her to become who she was supposed to be. And I'm just like, come on, really? I really hated Raclin. He was this like, he was the son of a fairy queen who could turn into a dragon, and all he did was try and hunt frickin', I'm not going to even talk about that because that's really kind of a spoiler. So I'm not going to talk about it. All you need to know is that he was, in a way, very spineless as well. He did exactly what his mother wanted him to do at any given time. And he wasn't in the book, and I did review this book, so you can go back, I'll link that in the description, you can go back and see what I had to say about it. And he kind of, like, he wasn't well developed enough to be, like, anything but annoying, in my opinion. He was terrible, annoying, like, I didn't even want to spend any brain cells thinking about him. I was just like, why does he exist? She could have fought so many other things, but it has to be this, like, gross, like, spineless dragon fairy dude. Like, come on. No! So, you know, he does get turned to stone, spoiler alert, in this book, so I think it'd be pretty easy to drown him, at least at that point, but nobody bothered to do it, so another reason he needs to go. And the last one I want to talk about is Nolan Sorrento in Ready Player One. And I don't want to spoil this book too much because I feel like this is one of the books that everyone has to read. Everyone that has any kind of nerd anything about them needs to read it. So, but Nolan Sorrento is the antagonist, and he is 7 kinds of evil, maybe even 10 kinds of evil. I didn't really count. He would blow up a human being just to win over a video game. Would you believe that? I mean, I know some pretty, like, hardcore gamers, but I don't think they'd actually blow up people to own a video game. Okay, well, this is like a dystopian world and everything, and I suppose you can kind of be like, well, this is what he's talking about with the money and all these things, but he would blow up a human being for money. Like, I would like to drown him. Like, he doesn't need to exist type thing. Alright, so yeah. No. Alright. So enough ranting for me. Those were the top 5 characters that I would like to drown, and that was Top 5 Wednesday. Link to that group from Goodreads down in the description, and I'll tell you about all these books that I put in the video, and I'll actually write down the name of the characters so that you can see exactly when you read them what I was talking about. So yes. If you would like to hear more of my rambling, hit the subscribe button below, and I'll be back with another video soon, alright? Bye!